Welcome to Candyland Live. My name is Candy. I'm the owner and founder of the Animal King Training Academy. We've got a special guest with us this afternoon that's going to be speaking about finance and especially finance for young families. Please welcome Shaune. Shaune's a master practitioner of our work, so watch this space. How did you get started in the industry?
So it was pretty much when my daughter was born. Found out, at the time I was an apprentice boilermaker, and when I found out, I still remember to the day I was standing in a certain alleyway in the workshop, and then just found out, got a phone call saying, oh, we're having she was playing, it was finally reality, and I was like, holy crap, how am I,
So that when she found out she was pregnant?
Yeah, definitely. So found out she was pregnant, and then at the time, we were working our way, set up and building the house, and then the thought straight away was, well, now it's financially on me, because then obviously for a period of time she's not going to work, I'm going to support this kid, and just so much has gone through my head. So, straight away when I was apprentice for a mine company, so I was like, all right, well, I'll just go up and work in the mines. Everyone talks about how good money it is, and the Australian dream is, WA especially, is to go work in the mines. So I went and did that for a while, but it just wasn't for me, long hours and seeing my daughter grow up, 1 week she's kind of just walking, and following week she's full bottle running around the house, terrorising dolls. So for a while there I thought, surely, there's got to be something I can do so I'm home more and I can earn the same amount of money and, not stressed about money anymore, and all those things as well.
I think days in mine too. Like I remember before I had kids, you were up at like 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning if you were lucky, sometimes earlier.
Yeah, it's big. Like, you wake up 4:30, catch a bus at 5. By the time you get back, 6:30, 7 o'clock, have dinner, and you go to bed around 9 o'clock as well. So it's not, everyone's sold on how much money, but you're doing 14 to 15 hour days. You're out in the heat, especially boilermaker, welding, and all that as well. It's
fun in your
fun.
20s.
Yeah.
And then your 30s happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. I sat there and I think it was just one day of like, I just thought about my future and I was like, do I want to be doing the same stuff when I'm 50? I see guys swing on sledgehammers who are 50 years old and all that, and I was like, I don't want to be doing this and have back problems and all that. So it was more, what can I do to do it? So I started looking into, I started reading, I've read probably numerous money books and money seminars overseas and all that as well. And what I kind of really discovered is, I started doing these and, I've got, 10 different budgets, people will stick to and all that, but what I found is you can stick to a budget, or sometimes a while ago I gave a client a budget and they're like, I'm not just sticking to it. So what and for me personally as well, I started deep diving into, well, why is it that, some budgets I can stick to, but others, it may last, say, 2 months and then it kind of fades off and all that. So I started looking more into the psychology of it, because we're all conditioned from a young age of our money beliefs, like you get told, for example, money is the root of all evil, but you go watch The Simpsons, who's the bad guys? Montgomery Burns, and in every movie the bad guy's got the one with a lot of money, and it's even the other...
Cruella de Vil with the palace.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's even the other week, I was watching a movie with my daughter, and at the start they're describing this circus type thing, and they're like, had a good thing going. The next line is, but we all know good things don't last.
Oh.
And it's like, even at 5 years old, we're programming our kids that, and it's, we're just grooming them. And, I started looking at my money beliefs, when I was younger and all that as well. So it's really...
What do you reckon your beliefs were when you were younger?
Drama. Definitely drama. So, I earned good money, but because I don't like to be associated with drama, so to speak, I was repelling it. So every time I got money, I had to get away with it because my programming was I had to get rid of it. Otherwise, if I kept it, it's going to cause all the drama.
All the drama would come with the money.
Yeah, exactly. So even when I started earning a lot, not necessarily there was a drama, but some people I felt like used me for more because I had money, and like also shout a lot because I had that money, but it was just a way of me getting rid of it as well. So
I think my inheritance was like my stepdad earned good money, but the psychology was it doesn't matter how hard you work, it's never enough.
So you're always chasing it.
Like so early days before transformational mindset work, it was really like it doesn't matter how much you earn. Like I think one job we had like 350 grand a year, and they were still walking around like, oh, we don't have enough, to buy like basic things like clothes and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, but you have money for speakers.
Yeah.
Like what? And then more recently, the beliefs that I've swapped it out for is I have enough within me. I don't need to have enough without of me.
Yeah.
Like, because wherever I am, I'm in abundance. Even when my bank account says 0, which doesn't happen, hasn't happened in years. Like, haven't lived paycheck to paycheck in maybe 4 or 5 years now. But it's that whole, also that I have enough within me so that I'm not constantly looking for the next thing. And the other thing, the second layer for me, so once that was done, the second layer is that root of all evil thing. Like, I remember so many people having this opinion, like, oh, the upper class, they're such a so-and-so and so-and-so. And I really had this experience of myself being like at a cellular level, a bottom feeder. And you really supported me through that and transformed that for me and had me see that I could be whoever I wanted to be. I could have the upper class income without being the snob. Or I could have the upper class lifestyle, the upper class home, the upper class things without being arrogant.
Yeah, it's so true, because it's like, if you're rejecting that success, like, oh, look at that rich jerk or something like that, and you call that you're a nice person, then you're also rejecting that money as well, because you don't want that lifestyle, because you think that upper class people are jerks or snobs, or they're above everyone because they just splash money.
So you don't want to be that.
And so you're just rejecting it, and it's all like I've done a lot of conscious work and subconscious work, and stuff I'm kind of looking more into now is like also the heart math. So your vibrations and all that, so you're attracting it, because if you're not a good receiver, then how can you accept money as well? If you're just like, oh no, you're still repelling money as well. So it's all kind of like a mind and spirit type stuff.
And as soon as you transform that stuff for me, like, sometimes I catch myself getting really excited about earning money, and I get excited out loud sometimes. And obviously, like, starting out in a new relationship myself, I'll be like, oh God, I hope she doesn't think I'm greedy or, like, all the money. But really, it's like, money just occurs to me as opportunity now. And the more opportunities I have, the more I can serve and transform people. And the more I serve and transform people, the more I value myself. So it's like, I don't hear greedy in there. I hear, like, the more money I earn, the more I can serve humanity as like a...
Makes a difference to it.
There's a law there that I'm trying to reference. What is it? The law of compensation. Whatever you put out, it comes back. And, like, if I serve you for a decade, it doesn't necessarily have to come back from you. It will just come back from the universe. So I think, and you probably will agree with me on this one, that, like, if we could have humans know anything about money, 1, it's an opportunity. 2, it's not evil. Anything else you want to add to that?
It's like, it's just go back to what you said before as well, it's like, when you don't have money in your bank account, your like ego is like, oh, you try and, say self-belief of like, I'm a multi-millionaire or I'm in abundance and that, but you've got no physical evidence out the real world, so your mind just like straight away like, well, you got no money in your bank account, try and pull you down, because it's a survival mechanism. So that's why when you can really shift that on a conscious level, and do that even though that there's no physical evidence around, that's where it's like a real transformation just in itself as well.
And when you were just talking about ego, it reminded me of something we were talking about before the show tonight, and you were saying that sometimes we have, in the industry that you're in, which you'll get into in a little while for those of you at home that are watching, you didn't say ego directly, but that's what I heard. You were talking about, the different types of people, like low income earners are usually more significant and more reactivated. And you're trying to get through to some people that, maybe this week you might lose 500, but next week you'll gain $2,000. The week after that you might lose 700, but the week after that you'll earn $5,500. And it seems that people are very in time with the stock market and very freaking out about the right now, and not very through time in their meta programs and their experience. And as soon as there's some kind of loss, it's almost like in the stock market when you're paying someone such as yourself to guide you, it's almost like the ego goes straight to, well, this money is missing, so someone's to blame, the world of right and wrong, instead of ebbs and flows mentality.
It's like, if I make a client say, an extra $1,000 on their account, and say it takes a loss and it's, just say called base figures like $200, they might call me up and say, oh, you lost me $200. It's like, well, wait a minute, you still up $800, and it's like
another child walking around in the park, it would
it's
fall
like
out of my pocket.
not entitlement, but it's just like they had $1,000 and they lost 200, and they're like they're all defensive. It's like you still up X amount of dollars. So why, in like the scheme of things, and I think it's also instant gratification where so used to we can just order something online, it comes straight to our door, or you go buy a bike and it's straight there. And so like the stock market. The thing I love about it is it's such a mirror of what's going on with you. So if you're impatient, then you'll jump into things early and you're not reflective.
Yeah, there's that mindset, guys. It's not.
If you are bad with money, then you manage your trades. If you mismanage money, you mismanage your trades, and you may have, especially if you win some, lose some. It's kind of like this all the time. That's how you are with money. You earn some, lose some, earn some, lose some, and that's what I just love. It's it's just such a mirror, and that's what a couple of years ago when I started my training journey, it was just exactly like that. And it was kind of like I took some time away, like, all right, this is what's going on, this is what I've noticed. I'm gonna go work on these things for my personal life. So then it absolutely flows. Like consistency, if you're not getting consistent results, say one area of your life, say with money, why don't you go to the gym and do 4 days a week? It's consistent there, and that will play out in other areas of your life. So these little tweaks, not necessarily with your finance, but if you do, with nutrition or meditating or a grateful journal, these consistency will play out in other areas of your life.
Totally, and I guess a different way that you could put that for people watching at home is like, up until recently, being content in my relationship recently has had me on the ball at work. But if something's going on, or for example, a few months ago my kid was sick for like a whole month, and I was kind of grappling at work a little bit. Like I wasn't suffering, but I just wasn't in that supreme flow. And like what I think people don't understand is they feel like they can just put everything into their career or their stocks and then somehow magically it's going to pan out okay. But it's almost like being on a raft in the ocean and having 4 to 8 barrels of air under each corner. And if one of those barrels, let's say your health, becomes a little bit deflated, then the whole thing tries to capsize. So your health goes out the window, and let's say you're fighting with the wife, your health and the wife go down, and then how do you even focus at work?
That's it.
And people think that the answer is to dive deeper into work. But really it is to restore integrity to the balance and the equilibrium of life so that you can glide.
Yeah, and it's so hard. At the time when I first started doing this, I was progressing in my job. So I just came off, I was a site supervisor up on one site, so my career was, taken off. I was also learning trading, new baby in the house, wife, not wife, but ex-partner at the time was,
Wife.
Yeah. She was, at home, just gone back to work, so, trying to look after myself, health. So I had all these things going on, and it was like, I'll go here, give that a couple of, minutes attention and go do this and try and expand myself. Like I needed 5 different versions of Shaune to do it.
Round the wheel.
Yeah, so, and I used to be, really ambitious and like, oh, I'll go to this, pull out of the gate type thing. But then after a while, I just slowed down to I can do things with intentionality. So I'll focus on this, and it doesn't have to be, you got to complete everything all at once. And that's something I really learned probably the last 4 or 5 years is, just because you're at a certain stage of life, you go from here to here, next stage of life might require you to slow down and do things a bit slower and, just focus, now especially with my daughter, I get her 4 days a week, so that time I really focus on her for a good afternoon or something like that, and she feels nurtured and loved, and then I can go do, stuff in my business on a Sunday afternoon or, look at the stock market and do all those sort of things and still have a relationship and social and everything.
Yeah, and you go on the scene, Shaune. Off the market, ladies. Sold. I've noticed it myself, the last probably 3.5 years until a few months ago, I was like, I can totally be successful in my career and in my relationship with my children and in the relationship with my friends, and I'm fine never being loved romantically again. I'll be fine. And then it's almost like a slow progression of numbness when you don't realise how much it sucks, really. I'm fine, I can do it myself, blah, blah, blah. But, and then all of a sudden you get a connection with somebody and you're like, wait, maybe there was something really actually missing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because it's like, you know, when you have got a partner you spend time with, like you got your social life and your kids and that, and then you notice you may start working like 12 to 14 hour days, 16 hour days, and that's what I noticed is I was working a lot more. You know, so I work full time, I work on business after hours and that, and then that was just my norm.
No fun, no joy, nothing to look forward to.
And that's like when, you know, you start dating the partner with them now, I was, you know, oh, there's this. I'm like, what did I used to do for those 14 hours? Because I'm still doing that amount of work, but it's just in a short time.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a whole different concept. And it's just more, because I know, not like I know I'm limited to time, but I'm just more intentional. Like, you know, if I get this done, then I can still have those leisures and stuff. So just throwing myself into working.
Yeah, I had a client this week, and she was basically like, and if you're watching, hi, I won't give away personal details, don't worry. But she was basically like, I need something to make me get out of bed in the morning, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know about what she expected I was going to do, but most people just think I'm going to hypnotise you to like bounce out of bed like a robot at whatever time in the morning and just get the things done. And, you know, most people are quite shocked when I say, well, you're not in your passion and your purpose. You know, like when you're fully in your passion and your purpose, when you're excited about, you know, in your case, and the example that you just gave was like smashing that day out at work so you can go and have fun with the missus. You know, when you're in your passion and your purpose, you don't need motivation. You don't need determination. You just get it done. Like, it's a completely different thing. Like, if you find yourself, like if you're at home and you're like, I really struggle with motivation, I really struggle with determination, I've really got to figure out how to motivate myself, I'm telling you, you are not living in your passion. You are not living in your life's purpose. You are probably thinking that you will never have what it is that you really want. And you probably need to come and see somebody like us to get rid of your limiting beliefs, because, like, well, you tell me, what was it like quitting your job and stepping into your career, like fully just like, this is who I am now?
Well, I contemplated for a while. Like,
a couple of years?
Yeah. Like, I was like, yeah, no, do I do it, don't I do it? And then it was just one day, like, I was sitting on my computer typing away and I was just getting these, you know, ridiculous emails, you know, because I was in the senior role, like a management level for the day stable in the company. And I was just sitting there, I was just like, I'm just sick of this. Like, I'm getting questioned over stuff what these people already know the answer to and they implemented like 3 months ago, and I just had enough. Especially, you know, because I dealt with Eastern States and the USA as well, and I was like, no, I'm over this, and I just like rang them up, you know, hand them 4 weeks notice, and then after I was done, I was just like, oh. And it wasn't even like really like you know, felt worried or stressed or anything like that. I was just like, oh yeah, because it's in my head.
This is who I am now.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I've been doing this, you know, side business for you know, a good year or two now, so it was like I was ready, you know, in my head, I was already doing that already. It was just transition from a, you know, a side or part-time thing into a full-time thing now.
Yeah, and on that, like, one of the big things, like, Shaune's obviously a master practitioner now, but one of the things that we acknowledge in the practitioner program is, you know, a lot of people have this cliff-hanging experience of quitting their current job to step out into the passion and purpose. They really think it's this whole, I have to give up the $120,000, $80,000, $60,000 a year, $25,000 a year job, whatever it is that they think is safe for them. They really feel like they have to quit that job and just dive in blind with no experience, and hopefully it's a very exhilarating, scary thing for people that don't do the work with us and discover a way that you literally build the company up in the background, you get the foundations in, you get the momentum, you get the experience, and then when the money starts coming in, then you drop out. And that's more transitional as opposed to, I can't, it's almost like this experience of them with a parachute on their back, waiting to jump out of a plane, hoping that the parachute opens. And they're not too sure about the guy that put the parachute together because it's them.
And one thing that like really, you know, shifted for me stepping into that was just my mindset around it. Like, it was, you know, obviously there was some, you know, emotions before I made that call to my manager that, you know, had my resignation. But it was just, I think as well, building up that mindset of, you know, can do it in a period of time, getting foundations in. Because if you just go, quit your job, and the next thing, like, oh crap, what am I doing? Then you're worried about clients, your income, if you've got support, your bills, and you know.
More likely to fold and just go and apply for another job.
Yeah. Where if you've got those foundations in, like you're saying, and then you've got that like resilient kind of mindset, and you've got that certain level of mindset to succeed, it's just a building block, and you just keep going up and up as well.
So why don't you tell everybody, like, I know a little bit about what you do in the new company. So first of all, you guys have probably seen it come up on the background here. But Diamond Capital, right? This is your company, owner and founder. Basically, the way I've come to understand you is that you're quite a holistic financial, like, you don't just deal with the figures, the facts, the structures, and I guess in our language we call that the masculine. But you also come along and you will modify people's mindset so that the experience is actually pleasurable for them, and they're not, handing over their money, freaking out about it the whole time.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you.
So what I do is, like I said, I've got 10 different strategies on different budgets. I've got a well-simplest budget, which is just pretty much 5 accounts, X amount of percentage of your wage goes into each account. And that,
so is that like a savings?
Yeah, so you've got like a necessity one, so that's just like bills, mortgage, all that. The next one will be like a give one, so you put like 5% into your give every month, so that's donations, charities, and that.
So people that went to church knew that as tithing or something like that? Yeah.
And then another one's education, so whether it be like uni or personal growth, books, whatever it may be, that's 10%. And then what I've actually done is I split it out, so long-term savings. So say if I want to buy a house, 10% in there. What I've done is 5% in that one. Maybe I want to, say a new car, 5% to that one each week.
So short-term, long-term savings.
So you go short-term, long-term. And the next one is I call it FFA, which is a financial freedom account.
Yeah.
So this one you put 10% in as well. And that's, you build that up, so then you take that and may put it into a high interest account, go invest in an index tracker, invest in the stock market, buy shares. So this account is specifically for flying financial freedom in the long run.
Investments.
Investments and all that as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a strategy I use. There's obviously different ones out there.
So basically you just open bank accounts with the right interest rates and on the savings ones, and the ones that you're just utilising for day-to-day expenses or bills or mortgage or whatever, you're just using a fee-free account.
Yes, pretty much. And the way I've done it is, so my wage comes into this main one, and then every time I get paid, it automatically puts a certain figure out and disperses it as well. So that's a simple budget. I've got other ones where people, are very analytical.
No way, I don't believe it.
So there's other ones, I've got ones that break down, your monthly bill, like, if you get utilities, every bi-monthly, how much it costs per month, how much it can cost you per day, and we'll go down to details. Mortgage, we split it over instead of monthly, over weekly, how much interest you'll save. I've also got a tracker of a loan, so you put in all the figures, your interest rate, turnover the loan, how much you pay, and we kind of give a projection, and then if you say, I'm going to put an extra $50 per week on this, how much interest you can save, the short and length of the loan, all that as well.
Yeah, so you do all the math for people too.
Yeah, so what I found though was, for me personally as well, was you got these budgets, but it's like, well, why aren't I getting any further? And that's where, I started looking at the psychology of money and your beliefs around it, what we're conditioned to as well. So that's the approach I do use. So what I kind of do is we identify the old money story, go through what your beliefs, your conditionings are, and then what we do, once we do that, we do some techniques, and then once that's completed in the past, then we go and create the new money story, the fun part of what it will look like for your future, financial abundance, whatever it may be as well. So that's kind of, I've got a workbook what's been like kind of done over a 6 to 8 week period. So you go through and you do the conscious work, and then we have a coaching call and you can go through it, I do techniques. So that's kind of a conscious work and mindset. So while you're doing that, the conscious work at home, that's when I come and do the subconscious work and the techniques. But then with that as well, the sessions, I also attach, a bit of spirituality to it, to like a heart coherence and energy as well. So you can, have all the mindset right, but energetically, if you're repelling it still, then you sort of keep flushing washing it away. So if you
Yeah.
get your mindset right,
The vibe attracts your tribe,
yes,
for
correct.
sure.
And it's like, you know, if you want to attract more wealth, then you can do a mindset and think positive and all that, but what's still, you know, leftover residue on your body.
So you set up their bank accounts, you remove their fears, give them a new mindset, and then once they've saved the money to invest, you also support them investing as well?
Yeah, so there's, you know, it depends on like what their long-term strategy is, right? So some client, you know, some people might say, you know, I just want to invest in property, you know, I'm not a guru in property, I know, you know, basics about it, but I know there's people out there who are way more qualified than me to do that. You know, I can point in a direction, whether it be, you know, I want to set up a index track, you know, something for my daughter, you know, something I've got, you put X amount of dollars in, contribute every month, and when she's 25, you'll have, you know, say, invest 80 grand, you may walk away with 260 grand because compounding
Can you
interest.
tell me about that later? Because
Yeah.
that's something I don't
Yeah,
know about yet.
definitely. So yeah, it's pretty much just you deposit, say, 3 grand initially, put $100 in every month, and you can kind of pick what fund you want. Some these index trackers, it follows the stock market, you know, base.
Index trackers,
Yes.
ladies and gents.
But the thing is, the reason why it's so good is because there's no fund manager with high fees. It's like real low fees. So you use that and invest. So over a long period of time, say 20 years, you may, like I said, invest 80 grand, but you walk away with an extra, say, 180k just for leaving it sitting there. It's just
Yeah,
like
so
a bank account.
is it, what's the difference between that and a long-term investment? Not long-term,
Like a savings account,
no, what's that? Fixed term deposit.
it's the interest rates.
Yeah.
So fixed term deposit may say, you know, your banks, let's call it 2%, right? So if you put that amount of money in, like 2%, it's going to take you a lot longer to do that. Where these index trackers, some of them, you know, average return is 10% per annum. So where you earn 2% in 5 years, it will take you to earn that 10.
5 times quicker.
Yeah. So that's the thing. You know, it may take you 50 years to get that, where this is only 10. There's different, you know, types. You could do like a property one where the average term is maybe 20 to 30%, but that's a 3-year term. So it depends on how on the ball you want to be with it. So you can do like, I'm going to do this for 3 years, and after 3 years I'm going to go do this for that. But what I found, it's easy to set and forget. Put it in there, you know, 25 years, come do it, you check it once a year, see how it's performing. But yeah, and just go for that. So that's another.
So index trackers, how, once they've saved the money to invest in something, you can support them with index trackers. What else do you support them with?
So there's that, and then once they also reach a certain level, I also trade money on the forex market,
Yeah.
which is, you know, so obviously currency. So you look at currency, I trade it on the way I see it's going. So a lot of people get baffled by this because they're like, how can you make money when it goes down and up? I'm like, it's just because the way I make money on the way it's going to go. So if it's say here and I think it's going to go down here, then it does. That's how I can make money. And vice versa, it goes up.
So it's a game of predictability for you.
Yeah. So, but I use a certain strategy of what's in front of me on the chart. So it's like a pattern recognition. So you might have like, you know, kind of like a ceiling roof, right? So it's support and resistance. So if it comes down here, doesn't break, it comes down here, like certain patterns. And the thing with the stock, you know, forex fund, and we know history always plays out. So these patterns are just replicated over and over again. So that's what we know. So you can kind of use some pattern recognition, like, all right, it's on break here, it's going to go up to here. And that's the way I trade. Like,
and universal law states that what goes up must come down.
exactly. You know, it's like, yeah, it'll reach a certain peak and then it'll come down even harder.
Yeah.
And you know, I was looking before this COVID, the Aussie US dollar, that's been going down since, you know, start of 2018, and everyone's like, oh, the stock market's crashing. Well, if you actually look at the charts, and I can do this to any stock as well, like Woodside or ANZ or whatever it may be, you look at some of these companies and even the currency, these have been trending down for a long period of time. But, you know, over the last, say, 2 years, it's been trending down, and it's eventually going to get to here, but in the space of 2 months, it's automatically dropped huge. And people are like, oh, it's crashing, it's crashing. Well, no, it's already gone down, but it just got there a hell of a lot quicker than anticipated, and now it's hit there.
Pandemic, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's the pandemic what's caused it, but people think the pandemic made it crash and made it go down. No, it was already going down. This just made it drop even quicker.
The mindset of people that
Yeah.
it's lit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing as well, you know, like oil, that was back down to 2003 prices. Now it's kind of hovering there, staying there. But, you know, when I was looking at the chart, oil prices, it's come back down to the same level as 2003 and 2000. And it's slowly working its when we get back up to those prices, who knows, maybe 6 months, could be a month, could be another year, depends on how the market goes, because it kind of goes up and down, may come back down, all that depends on what message the market's giving us. So that's another avenue I do for people as well.
So index tracker, stock, anything else?
Like I dabble a bit in shares, but it's not really my expertise. Like I know about shares, and I can look at, I've had people come to me like, oh, what do you think of, say, just call it, BHP shares. I'll look at it and apply the same strategy I use in the forex trade. Like, all right, I'll wait till it hits this price. If it doesn't get in at this price, so they get in. That's the thing as well. While like the forex market, because it works in such a micro lot. If you buy 10 shares and $11 it goes to 12, you've only made $1. Where if I do that, it goes up $1, I can make a lot more, like say $100 because it works in such micro lots. It's down to like 0.3 of a decimal cent, so at 63.582, when it goes up 1 to 583, I could have made $1 or $2 on that, depending on the capital, because I reached a cent per session based on my capital size. It's not like $100 or that, it's a risk management strategy I use. So shares is something I don't really deal with, but it's more forex. I can play the same principles and stuff I'm looking at now as a extended service, but it's not my.
Why have you ended up here? Like over the years, I've done a lot of finance seminars, and I don't mean led them, I mean sat in them and watched them. Like Tim Guest's amazing, his strategy's awesome. There's Mastermind of Money with, JB seminars or MJB seminars, sorry, I should say. There's a lot of different ways of doing things there. And also, like, some of my friends, they did some of Tim's work and then they looked into the barefoot investor type stuff. Tim Guest's protocol is fantastic for those that don't own a business, don't need a business platform to work from. If you just want an investment property and to stack investment properties, he's got a brilliant system. But some of my mates, Janina and Harry, hi guys if you're watching, they found that because Harry's an engineer, a mechanical engineer, buying a mixed purpose or mixed use residential property worked out better for them than just buying investment properties, because he could make money off of like working on the land. And there's so many different, stock markets, stocks and bonds, long-term, short-term investments, all of these things. What is it for you that's had you choose what you're doing? What's set what you're doing apart from everything else out there, do you think?
So initially I got into it was, I went to uni, for some reason, I've always been interested in, initially I wanted to be like a fund manager, and sometimes, I know, it just kind of came to me one day when I was on the site trying to think about...
You like playing with money?
Yeah, pretty much. And I was thinking when I was on the site and didn't want to do it, I'm like, how can I earn money, be smarter, not necessarily work harder, but have money work for me instead of me working hard for money. Up there doing 14 hour days and earning X amount and getting taxed like nearly 40 grand on my paycheck, I'm like, surely there's got to be a way I can make this work for me. So I kind of just started, Googling, and I was like, oh, fund manager, what do they do? And started doing that. And I started going to uni. I was like, went over the uni fees, I was like, 30 grand for 5 years. I was sitting there thinking, well, if I use that 30 grand and
put it into the stock market.
Yeah, well, I went in, I got taught by a mentor and stuff like that, so they taught me how to do everything, and I'm always looking, got a mentor as well at the moment. Coaching and that.
You need one.
Yeah. I was just thinking 30 grand, if I paid them X amount of dollars, say 15 grand, I can use 15 grand to invest. 3 years, I walk out with a degree, I still have to look for a job, when in 3 years, I could be self-reliant and make money while I sleep, and that's the thing as well, if I could do it, and it's not like you really need that much time, like an hour or two a day, I love it, I can sit in front of the computer all day, but if you can make money work for you, and this what, give other people the keys to the kingdom, so if you can make, a couple $100 while you sleep, to help pay for mortgage quicker or do whatever.
And I guess you don't have to worry about, if you got into the investment property game, you don't have to worry about, I know there's insurance and stuff, but there's always the stress of your tenants wrecking your property.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well, depending on your personal situation, I know it's different for everybody. Sometimes people have to save 25 grand, sometimes people have to save 60 grand to get an investment property, or sometimes even more, depending on their personal circumstances. Like, you can pretty much get started with you for like...
Yeah, so you can, like, there's some brokers out there, you can put $100 in and start trading yourself. You know,
It's easier to get into.
yeah, it is. It's like, you know, and that's the thing, you can do it while you start, you know, and there's also demo accounts, so you're not actually using your own physical money, it's just a kind of a monopoly money, so to speak, and you just learn how to trade and to get the foundations in and your strategy and all that, so then when you start making consistent returns, oh, let's switch over to real money. Now, there's good and bad about that, you know, when you start using real money, the whole fear and greed comes in because you're dealing with real money now.
Fear and greed.
Yeah, so that's why sometimes it's good to get your strategy down packed. On the other time, when you've got that down packed, you can make transition, but then you might start seeing things and people start looking at it like, oh, if I just got in here, I can make an extra $50, or if I just hold on a little bit longer, it might turn. And you know, I've been told stories of someone just put like 20 grand in, placed a trade, and it went against them, and it started, you know, because they just went all in, it started losing a lot of money, and like, I'll just chuck another 20 in because it's on the turn, kept going the opposite way, and then put another 20 in, by the time it all done, and that was 100 grand, because I was just wrong, and it was just that fear and greed, like, no, it's on the turn, it's on the turn. That's the thing, yeah, and that's why they said, you know, you place like stop loss, so if it does turn against you, it takes you out a certain percentage,
It takes you out.
it just, like, it doesn't let it run, so that's the thing for me.
It's cheaper and easy to get into. There's things you can put in place to stop you from losing. What did you call it? Stop run?
Yeah, stop. It's like a stop loss. So if the market, you go here and the market kind of comes up against you, you can put it in, so it automatically takes you out of the market. The same when you hit your take profit, it's automatically run, sort of stop and, you know, get a certain percentage as well.
So there's safeguards nowadays, because back in the early days of the market, there was none of that.
Yeah, it's like it's a barrier, so you're like hits you out, hits you out.
So a second ago you said to me, some brokers will allow you to start this game at about $100. If somebody's sitting at home thinking about working with you, what kind of money would they need to be working with to approach you, just so they know?
So it's more than $20,000 to me, for the, you know, because obviously there's, to bring a client on, it's software I don't implement, because what I do is I have my account and then I have my client's account, so it's like a house account, so whatever trades I place on my house account get credited out to my client, so it's not like if they lose money I make money, so if I lose a trade they all lose, if I make a good
You're in it together.
yeah, so it's full transparency, whatever trades you see on your client's account, it's full transparency on theirs as well.
So if you put 100 grand into something and they put 10 grand in, you lose 10 grand, they lose $1 grand. That's like an echo of what you're doing.
Yeah, so it's like I always get my cap at 1%. So say if it is, I've got 10 grand in my account, so I'll trade 1%, so that's $100. So if they've got 5 grand, that's only $50 type thing. And that's the way it works. So if you do take loss, it's $50. So $50 can, you know, and this is how it works. So sometimes you might take, say, 3 or 4 losses in a row, so you're down $200, but then where you really make your money is when you win, because it's not a one-to-one scale. So my wins might come in at, say, 4-1, so I'm risking 1%, but I might gain 4%. So if I get, say, lose 4 trades in a row, that's $200. But if the next 2 come in, that's an 8-1, so that's $400. So then you're still up $200, and then you might say 2% loss, and then the next one might be, say, a 10% return, which is $500. So then you count. It's not like it goes from here straight to there. It might go up, come down, but it all depends on, you know, the market. Some months you might have a good 50% return, other months you might have 0.5% return as well.
How long, if someone did come along, like hypothetically, if they came along and said, here's 20 grand, go for it, what kind of time frame do you think people would be looking at to work? Like, what's a, because I feel like people are very in the now, and they want their results right now. But what do you think, you know, the time, like if you could have all people have an expectation on this, what kind of time frame do you think is suitable for people? Is it a week's thing? Is it a month's thing? Is it a year thing? Like,
well, I work by quarters, so you might have a bad month. You know, well, not I should say a bad month, but you might say, I took 2% loss. That's all well and good, but the next 2 months you might say, I made 8%, so you're up 6%.
Yeah.
So
it's about averages.
Yeah, it's our averages, but the way I look at it is in the scheme of things, if you put that 20 grand in a bank account, you only earn 2% interest.
Yeah.
Over the year, I may earn, you know, if I get you 10%, that's still
8% up on a bank.
Yeah, you know, so
even if you think you lost some months.
That's it. So
Yeah.
you know, even out of it, over 12 months, it's still 10%. That's way more, even though it's just taken that longer. But you still look at, that's the thing. People very much now they want to go 20 grand. I want to make it like 200 grand in a month.
Yeah.
Well,
So people need to be thinking like minimum 12 weeks. 12 weeks, 20 grand, then you can play the Shaune game.
Yeah. That's it. And that's what, the whole, why I also coach people on the mindset as well, because, 20 grand to some people is a lot. So, but this is the thing, 20 grand's a lot if you look at it in comparing mode. So 20 grand to say $100 is a lot, but 20 grand to $1 million isn't that much.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing.
Well, 20 grand, like when you and I were teenagers looking at our first car, 20 grand was like, whoa! But now, you and I, at our age, look, whatever that is, 21, right? But like at our age, when we're looking at a car, we're going, these $20,000 cars, excuse me if you own a $20,000 car, but they're shit. Like, at our age, what $20,000, and it's the same when you're a kid as well, like when you're really little, like 4 or 5, when we were young, you get $20 and you're like, a note. Yeah. And now...
At least can get red skins, like
yeah. And then by the time you get your first job, you've got like $200-300 worth of notes, and you're like, oh my god, $260. And then somewhere in your 20s, hundreds of dollars isn't enough. Yeah. Like I was 18 and I was doing 110 grand in the mines. So, some people it even happens in their teenage years, hundreds isn't enough. And then now we're, not so 20 anymore, it's like a couple of grand a week isn't enough anymore. And we're now aiming for the 5 to 10 to 20 a week. Yeah. And it's like, is this inflation or is this just us getting old? Because I do believe that finance is comparative. Like, if you spend $20,000 on Redskins, that is a lot of fucking money to spend on Redskins. But if you spend $20,000 to purchase $80,000 in a market, well, actually, that's cheap. Yeah.
In the scheme of things, like that's the thing as well. It's inflation as well, because you look at, I think I was reading something. I think it's by 2050 or 2070, piece of steak's only worth like $70. 2 litre of milk's only $10. So you start looking at things, and because we're so
time to buy a cow.
Yeah, it's like that, because us humans, we have it and stuff like that, and some of us aren't necessarily like open to change. So when you say like, oh, $2 for a milk, that's good. Then just like $2.50, like, oh, why they increase their prices? Just because you're so used to that for so long. Yeah. Now, obviously,
not thinking about the pay rise you just got.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
It's
generally you pay rises at cover the inflation rate, but then how much that equals and that as well. But it's like, oh, now I'm paying $2.50. Oh, that's an extra $50 on my food bill every week because of things going up, and you go into that mindset of comparing and lack of that scarcity. Like, oh, I haven't got enough. I haven't got enough. If you got enough, so you haven't got enough, then how do you expect to receive more as well?
And I think avocados is a good example too. Yeah. Like they're like $2 each, and now you're like, if you go to IGA, it's like $3.95, $5 for an avocado. And I had this joke with my partner recently. I was like, by the time I'm a little old lady, an avocado's are like $10, $20, $30 each. And I was like, I can just sell avocados. And then I was like, wait, inflation, $30 in the future isn't going to be shit. Like it's going to be worth nothing anyway. You know. And
it's also like, I remember speaking to parents about it, like, when they were kids, they could walk down to the deli for $5, get a Coke and a pie and get changed. Now $5, you only just get the pie. Yeah. It's just relative as we go along.
Yeah, I think my stepdad's parents bought their property for around 15 grand back in the day. And I don't know what they closed it on, but they had, after a lifetime of hard work, mind you, they had it on the market for 2.5 million.
Yeah, wow.
And, they totally took it from countryside, turned it into a vineyard, a tasting room, like all of that. But, find me a block you can buy for 15 grand nowadays.
Yeah, very good.
Like I'm not invalidating the work they put into that property or anything like that, but find me, I think it was 30 acres or 40 acres for 15 grand. Yeah. Like if you bought 40 acres for 15 grand nowadays, it would be some biohazard thing. You certainly couldn't turn it into a vineyard or something like
That's the thing as well. Like, you know, I was reading some stats a while ago, and around the same time, I think it's 2050. You know, average house price now is around like say 400 to 500. In a few years' time, it's gonna be like $1 million. So you that's why, you know, I started doing this thing for my daughter. So when she goes to buy a house, if she's got like say, you know, 400 grand, that's a decent size deposit for a first home. You know, I'm not gonna give it to her at 21, but she might just go drink a wall.
She needs a prefrontal cortex.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like it's more like, you know, 25, you know, 30 gift when she does do it. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to think, you know, an extra $500,000 in 20 years' time. But it's all relative, you know. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but how much will you pay off in that time?
Yeah.
You know, your average wage might be 250, 300 now instead of 80 grand.
I mean, to people listening to this at home, it might be a bit of a shock, but a decade ago I was designing houses, and house and land packages down south were 190k for a 3x2. You know, and now to get a very low spec 3x2, you'd be lucky to get it in at 275.
Yeah.
You're more looking at 350, 360 mark if you've got a perfect block and no real side works, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's 5 to 10 years ago kind of bracket, and it's almost doubled there.
Yeah.
You know, 360 is almost 400, that's almost double.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not really a surprise to me that those same house and land packages 10 years from now are going to be around that 800. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know, I'll be alright. We'll be in Malibu somewhere. Business, kids. Yeah. So how can people find you if they're watching this today?
So like I've got a page on Instagram, Facebook as well. I haven't been as active recently, just because I'm getting over a cold as well. But that's it. There's a lot of people out there know. So if you know anyone out there,
There is.
yeah.
Ta-da! On point, on cue.
There's a lot of people, like, you know, the last 2 years, you know, people ask me what I've done, you know, explained it, and that as well. So, you know, I've got good support from good clients at the moment as well. So
Yeah. And if you can't find him on Facebook, guys, just hit me up. Shaune's also my centre manager at Elite Training Academy. He handles a lot of things for me. And people in the future that are looking at doing our programs, he will probably be calling you to make sure that you're not wasting my time. So I don't have to call everybody. So yeah, if you just say, hey, what's Shaune's details, I'd be more than happy to pass on his phone number, his website, his Facebook, things like that, no problem. If you could tap the world with a magic wand and have them know one thing about finance or what you do or anything at all, what do you think it would be? If you could transform one thing about this.
That's a hard one, there's so many.
Chunk up.
I mean, like finances are easy. Like to me, they're easy. It's just people get confused about numbers and go on overwhelm.
Yeah.
But if there's one thing I could do in this world, is just end poverty. There's just like
end poverty.
Yeah, there's just there's more than enough money to go around for everyone. It's just their mindset and the way they've been brought up thinking they don't have enough, or they've been dealt crap cards, or they're not good with money. It's just their belief system.
Yeah.
What they just programmed into. You know, it's like, you know, their parents conditioned this way, their parents probably conditioned this way, just going back generations. And that's the thing as well. Like, we're advancing so technology, but our updated beliefs aren't really necessarily changing. Like, we're starting to see it now, but we're still saying, you know, we're just passing on the way we parent because that's what we've been taught.
Yeah. Groomed.
Yeah, groomed. So that's one thing. It's just there's more than enough money to go around for everyone to be, you know, millionaires. And people might disagree with that, but it's just like, oh, what about people in third world countries and all this? But it's like, you know, I think it's the top, whatever it is, the top 10% of wealthy people in the world have more than enough wealth just to go around for every single person.
Yeah.
To provide for everyone.
And what I guess I'm hearing in what you're saying, and you can add to it or alter it later, but like I'm hearing, you know, if I'm here with my partner and I'm so making myself and other people wrong and being in ego over, you know, somebody spent an extra $12 on the whatever. Like all that energy we spend on finite details and looking for evidence of poverty. And not just looking for evidence of poverty, but it's like the human condition that the first thing we do is look for someone to blame. And we don't understand as a whole, and I know this is a generalization and there are like exceptions to this. But as a whole, instead of going, I'm the source of my life, I generate who I am, what I own, what I earn, the first thing we do is go to look for someone to blame.
Yeah.
You know, the amount of, like, in my role when I do one-on-ones or in the programs that I run, the amount of times I hear, you know, I can't quit my job and go and do my dream because my parents or don't believe in me, or, you know, I would really love to go and do this job, but my missus wouldn't be happy if I went and did this job, or, you know, my husband doesn't like me talking to men, so I'm not allowed to do this job. You know, if we just got over ourselves and really got that, until you step into what it is that you're supposed, like the thing that you were created to do, your passion and purpose, until you step into that, you're never really going to make good money. You know, until you stop living the safe life, and it's like, you know, and also for those of you at home, a little bit of bonus information, the psyche will often intentionally earn less than our parents inside of a commitment to respect them. And then there's inflation. So, you know, if your dad earned 25 grand back in the 50s, that would have been okay money, but nowadays 20 grand is poverty. So, you know, we've all got to work on what we think it is to be successful. Because if we can, you know, grab all that blame, all that micromanaging, all that poverty mentality, all these filters that we have, and transform them into just stepping into what we're naturally talented at, what we're naturally good at doing, the money just falls in your lap, then we might actually be able to think about something outside of ourselves. But, you know, so many people at home might be sitting there going, oh, you know, third world countries, poverty, I can't even, you know, support my own children or whatever. And it's like, yeah, you can support your own children. You just, you know, there's, what's that Tony Robbins quote? There's no lack of resources, only lack of resourceful ways of being.
Be resourceful.
Yeah, be resourceful, you know. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, it kind of comes to mind of like, you know, if you're always saying, oh, I can't give money because I don't have money, well, you don't, who's saying like $10, $5? Like, I remember, you know, while you know, this is when I was struggling, you know, daughter was just born and all that, I literally had like $40 on my account. And at that time I was like, there was a donation, I was like, oh, I'm going to give $5, $10. Like, you know, I was like, I could have sat there like, oh no, that's mine. But what you're telling is like, if you're saying, oh, I don't have enough, I can't give anything, then you're saying like you're not enough and you don't have anything more to give.
You're declaring it.
Yeah. So if you're like, oh, I have more than enough to give, then things will start showing up. Even though I had only $40 and that was like, you know, nearly, you know, a third of what I had, I could have bought, you know, extra food or whatever it is. $10 there, I'm like, yeah, I have more than enough, because, you know, there's that mindset of abundance. I've got more than enough to give, and what it doesn't have to be $1, 50 cents. You're still giving. It's the it's the action and the thought behind the action. So when you like give up, like I'm in abundance, I can give more, and then you know, things will start to shift.
My all-time favourite when I find myself like, you know, over analysing stuff, and it's been working really well for me for the last couple of weeks. I'm really honest. I do that back front. Dust in my face. No, off my shoulder. When I find myself over-analysing on the details and really chunked down, and like I don't really get to fluster, but I get to, again, it's getting difficult now.
Yeah.
It's like I say this thing where I just let go, take a step back physically, like I will move away from my desk or something, and then I'll just say something like, I trust that the right people will show up at exactly the right time. And then, like, literally in the time it takes me to get back to my desk, note my emails, there's a new lead, or there's like somebody who wants to have a conversation, or, you know, or I'll type a few sentences and I'll look at my phone and there's a, hey Candy, I really want to see you. I know I said I'd see you 6 weeks ago, but now I really need to see you. Like in the next 24 hours, please. You know, so I think that the one thing that I would give if I was to tap the world with a magic wand in the area of finance, and I need to take my own advice on this, like totally need to take my own medicine on this one. But it is really just, you have what it takes within you to make anything happen.
Yeah.
Anything. So just do it.
Yeah.
The more effort and energy you put into worrying about the details and, you know, the polarity of trusting yourself is anxiety. You know, empaths call it anxiety, workaholics call it stress, you know, analyticals call it overwhelm. You know, it's still that whole, I've just maxed out.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that is, I've gotten me through everything up until this day. This thing here is going to be a piece of cake when I surrender down.
That's it, like, goes back to what you said before, like people, you know, saying, oh, I can't quit my job because of my partner and all this. It's like, no matter, you know, I think we've been conditioned to think of others, and it's kind of gone extra mile. It's like we're always, you know, it's good to be considerate of others and others' feelings, but, you know, at the same time, like, you know, in the whole analogy of the aeroplane, you've got to put your mask on first to make, you know, to help others survive. So, you know, if you want to be liked by everyone, the saying is be an ice cream man. You know, look at like, because that's the way we love by everyone. Like, you know, Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins, he's got people out there who disagree with him. You know, people who, you know, full on. Grant Cardone, he's got people who disagree with him, and that's the thing. People, so just because it doesn't align with their beliefs or their values, or they, you know, got their own belief, or look at that rich guy, or, you know, he's a greasy salesman, or whatever it may be. That's their point of view on that. So, you know, have that point of view of that greasy salesman, or I can't do this because of this. All right, well, are you not that belief not be able to put food on your table? If not, like, go out and do it.
Yeah, a perfect example of this, right, is like I've been in commission like roles before I started my own business as an entrepreneur, which is a very commission kind of orientation. But one day when I was designing houses, before Elite Training Academy was even a dream, really, like it was back in the days when I thought that I could probably do really well at one-on-ones, because I was a consultant, a residential design consultant. And I remember coming home and I was working for a subdivision of a big building company. I won't release their details because this is still a thing. But I had sold 5 houses to them under their branding, under their everything. And on average, $12,000 to $16,000 commission for each one of those homes. So I was I was owed, I think it was over $50,000. And this company basically refused to pay me. And I was not getting a wage, I was not getting a retainer. I had done months for free, and when I went to the Ombudsman and resigned from that position, the way that company got away with it is they said that there was no employment contracts and I was just there on work experience. It was the first thing they said to them. And the second thing that the next bigger boss said was, I don't even think she was here. And I was like, seriously, you guys have printed out business cards and everything. I handed the business cards to the Ombudsman, but because there was no contract of employment, they still to this day have walked away from that scot-free. And I came home to my mum, I had ticked up the child, you know what it's like as a parent, the childcare centres, they'll let you get a few thousand in, before they start to go, look, you can't bring your kid back, you know, and I had credit cards back then that I had used to pay rent, and I maxed out all of my resources, knowing that any day now, in my head, this $50,000 was going to show up and I'd be fine. And it never showed up. And I was talking to my mum about it, and she was, I don't know why you bother with these commission jobs. You should just go and get a job in a bar. Like, I've been fine, you know. And I don't resent her for that, because that's her model of safety. That's her model of security. That's, you know, and it was also kind of a fun job sometimes too. So, like, I know that underneath what she was saying, she just wanted me to be safe, happy, secure, having fun, and have that consistency, right? So I don't resent her for that, but thank fuck I didn't listen to her. Because if I listened to her, Elite NLP Training Academy would not exist today. If I was about safety, let's laugh about that together, security, you know, then like, you know, like, some people say to me, like, oh, it must be so uncomfortable, or it must be so difficult. And yeah, it is. But you kind of learn to live there. Like, you know, like this week I'm having a conversation with somebody that's suicidal on Wednesday. You know, come Thursday, I've got somebody that wants to fly around the world but doesn't really know what she wants to do. Come Friday, I'm talking to somebody about their divorce. You know, like, it's all uncomfortable.
Yeah, and it's so, it reminds me of something I read this week with Robert Kiyosaki, is like, he's saying like, you know, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur now, but it's like, it's more of a mindset thing, but, you know, everyone posts, you know, social media especially now, everyone like posts how good it is to be, you know, entrepreneurial, you know, even...
like it's some fucking walk in the park.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, with trading as well, people are like, you want to jump on trading, like, look at lifestyle brings, you know, people posting, you know, photos of their, you know, with their Lamborghinis, nice house, got this from trading, and that's like the nice version, that's not even posting. And they think that's
the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and it's like overnight results. No, look at how long they've done it for and X amount of things. Same thing, like, you know, I was like, yeah, more time, more freedom, all this. Yeah, that's like the nice, pleasant, like 10% of your time. Otherwise, you're doing all this other stuff, and having these conversations, you know, dealing with clients, and doing this. And
I totally think that people think I've made like 180 grand sitting on the couch in my slippers sometimes. Because I walk around in my slippers when I need seminars sometimes, and I've got this really chill, you know, like just because we do it with grace doesn't mean it's not difficult.
Yeah, it's just that adaptability. Like someone comes up, you're like, oh, that's just the next problem I've got to solve. And, you know, that's
no problems, only solutions.
Yeah, and that's like what, you know, even as a salesman, like in the company, it was people would come to me and they're like, you know, just sit back and listen, and you know, and it's funny, like some counterparts, you know, colleagues, they're like, you know, you gotta go and sell this. I'm like, no, like they tell me their problem. Here's the solution, guys. If you want it, here it is. Otherwise, like. You know, they know how it goes in another year's time.
There's that cat and dog mentality. I think like in 1995, you know, Daniel's Direct did really well with the dog mentality. And what I mean by that is like sit, stay, obey, you know, buy, now. You know, and that dog mentality really was great in the 90s when consumerism was like, but now we're so desensitized to that. I'm liking the smart people in different industries that go, hi, this is me, this is my product, I'm here waiting for you when you're ready. Because, you know, exposing people to more marketing and grooming people is just desensitizing them. I think the stats were like you needed, back in the day, I think it was 90s, you needed 6 to 8 exposures for somebody to want a conversation with you to convert. And now we're, like, I think it was 2 years ago, it was 22 exposures. And in under 2 years, we're already at 27 exposures. Like, are we really just going to keep hammering people with marketing? Is this how it goes?
That's the thing, like, people start, like, once you start hammering marketing, they start to repel it. Like, oh no, like, why is this people coming up? They just reject it as well. Yeah,
so, you know, that's one of the big motivators for me to do Candyland Live a little differently this quarter, is that, you know, post-COVID, a lot of small businesses really want to have people become aware of their existence, but they also don't want to be that guy, you know, the walking in commercial. You know, you don't want to be Daniel's Direct on your personal page. You want to be like a normal human being that has a product, not a walking in commercial.
Because every time like someone comes over, like, oh, here's my product, you can buy it, you know, type thing.
Like, you know, and it's really strange when you have these multi-level marketing companies and things like that. You think you're getting invited over a cup of tea with a friend, and then before you've even picked up the cup, they're selling you something, and you're like, wait a second, I was here for a friendship. Like, what happened to transparency? Like, and the amount of people that still think that these weird techniques still work, you know.
And what I've really noticed as well is like so many people out there offering like free strategy session, or, you know, especially in some industries, like, you know, do this and we'll just go with this and do that. And you go into some of those calls and you're like, you just wait that sales bit, because why else are they giving it to you free? It's like the front door to getting free, and, you know, some stuff like that. That's kind of a new craze I've noticed.
I'm literally saying to people, like, the people that, you know, I will mention it, I'm like, have you ever thought about learning NLP or something like that? And then they're like, oh, yeah, whatever. Before they leave my office or before they leave the phone call, I always say to them, look, I'm not going to hammer you. I'm not going to try to sell you my stuff. And like, I'm booked out 6 weeks in advance on average. Like, you're going to have to start that conversation and pull it towards you if you want it. today or when you leave my office, I'm not going to keep calling you every week. And I know that some part of you wants me to do that to stroke your ego, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to need to come to me if you want this to work. You know.
And that's like, you know,
I don't have time for 27 exposures.
that's like, you know, when I was getting my website designed, like I spoke to him about the package, yeah, cool, and I was like, alright, you know, it's a full-time job at the time, but I look, I gotta go, like, you know, because I can't go to the role, I have meetings and all that, and I was like, yeah, like, you know, send me an email with everything, I'll look over and get back to you. But within the space of like 3 days, he called me something like 10 times, and like, you know, found me on WhatsApp and started sending me messages there and email and what's going on.
It feels like stalking.
Yeah, and I was just like, dude, chill.
Suffocating.
I called him back and I was like, I haven't got to it, being like flat out busy. You know, trust me, like, I'll come back to you. And he just kept going. I was just like, you know, I'm not doing business if you're gonna be like this. Like, you know, you're chasing my business, you know, chasing me now. I was like, I know it's just, you know, uncomfortable. Like, you shouldn't do it like that.
Yeah. Alrighty, well, is there anything else you want to say to everyone at home that's never heard about you before?
No, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. I know, you know, it might have been a favourite show or something you might have missed tonight or something like that. So, deeply grateful for tuning in and joining us tonight for Facebook Live.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and thank you for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. I'm entirely proud to watch your journey. I think I met you, 8 years ago? 2012, 2013?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And I've seen you come from a humble, don't be offended, little boilermaker with tattoos and a newborn baby to like, you know, doing my programs, being, like, you would have to be the most integral human being I know.
Thank you.
You know, whatever you say you're going to do, you do it. And there's just, it's almost like you're so aware of your own resistance. It's so much personal awareness that you know it's going to get in your way and you just refuse to let it. It's really, really cool to watch. Like, you don't, like, some people you'll see them go, when they hit some resistance or some kind of, you know, micro gesture or some kind of like attitude problem or something, and you have just consistently been, okay, you know, just like that, you know.
I think it comes from, you know, I used to do like martial arts and like, you know, kickboxing, and it's, you know, you get punched in the face and you kind of just be like, alright.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah, so exactly, like, I just got to keep moving forward, you know, like I had a few, you know, very amateur fights and that as well, and you're like, oh, that was just a hurdle, and it's just like, you just got to keep resisting. It's just that, like, you call it fight mentality, it's just that persistence to keep going and going. And even times like, you know, in business, I'm just like, oh, I don't know about this, like, you know, there's like a little voice back in my head, like, you know, just, it's not for you, you're doing the right thing, you go back to normal job, and it's just like, oh, just shut up, like, I'm just gonna keep going and just keep going. And yeah, I'm thankful I just keep going as well.
And a little while ago we started training you up as a seminar leader for the Elite Training Academy and for your own company. Do you see yourself doing any seminars or any group work in the future? Yeah,
I have thought about it. So I'm actually looking at releasing a podcast as well soon. So I'm kind of looking at
where will people find that?
So I haven't set it up yet, but you know, really, you know, on the main, you know, Apple, whatever that one is, I don't know that, the Spotify, maybe also a YouTube one as well.
And you'll probably plug it into the website and stuff.
Yeah, as well. So if anyone's out there having suggestions of, you know, what we're going to talk about or any topics related to money investment, please let me know as well. So I'll cover that. So it'll just be around finance, investing, you know, how to shift, you know, the psychology from maybe poverty to abundance, what you can do now to start implementing things, and you know, I can do suggestions on there, little tricks I've learned along the way, little 1% things. And this is what, you know, speaking about 1% tweaks, is something about today is, for, you know, some things. Sometimes, like, we do personal development and we have such a radical shift in a short change of time, and next thing, like, it's a year later, you're like, oh, I haven't got anywhere, I'm stuck. But it's a little 1% tweaks. Like, you may get up half an hour earlier than what you normally do. That's like a huge achievement. But some people just like, oh, it's just normal, you know, don't play it off. So just those little 1% tweaks will take you to the next level, because over a period of time it's compounding, right? So next thing you've made, you know, a percentage. Like, you know, I never used to really write gratitude in the mornings. Now I do it with my left hand, so I'm more conscious of what I'm writing. And so I've been doing that for about 2-3 months now, writing the left hand. Looks like chicken scratch to start, but it just gets better and better. So yeah, it's just like the little 1% is what takes you to the next level as well.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, if you have any questions for Shaune specifically, feel free to put them in the comments below. He will reach out to you and answer them. I highly recommend that if you're going to have a conversation with Shaune, even if you don't have 20 grand in 12 weeks to spend, still have a look at his savings stuff. And like, I highly recommend getting on the phone to people too, because a lot is lost in translation. Like, you know, if you have a very complex question that you need to ask him, you know, Shaune can do his best to try to type it out for you, but I think there's a lot lost in translation with text and things like that. So be open to just having a chat, even if you're not interested in working with him anytime soon, because, you know, what he was just saying about those 1% tweaks, that 1% tweak that you have with him on the phone call, you know, you might be thinking, oh, I might have the money in a year, but if he does a 1% tweak with you on the phone call, you might end up in his office 6 weeks down the track, blowing your own mind on your own, you know, outcomes. So, you know, I think it's really great to get questions going and things like that. Shaune can do his best in typing them out, but if you want the real Shaune, get on the phone to him. I personally seek Shaune out. He's one of, I see you for my mindset stuff probably 3 times more regularly than I do see my other people. So it speaks volumes that as a trainer, I trust you with every area of my life, my business, and I would hate to think that someone would misinterpret something you wrote online and miss out on all of that. You know, so feel free to look for his number, give him a call, and is that all?
Just to go over for a set. I'm more than happy that you guys reach out with any questions. We can schedule a call, go over it. Where can I assist to help you, make those tweaks, or what you need, different savings plan, what's not going right for you at the moment. More than happy, just drop me a comment or reach out to you as well.
Yeah. And thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Most welcome.
Alrighty, so bye for now.
See you guys.
Bye.